Oh, hello. Do you think that Big Brother is watching you? Or that the Illuminati is planning to take over the world? Have you had an encounter with a space alien today? Well, if the answer to those questions is yes, then grab your hat. This is tinfoil hat time. Greetings and welcome back to tinfoil hat time. Where's Ryan? Did he miss the notification? Used to seeing him jump on by now. Well, greetings, JJ Game. First to the comment line here. That's cool. Greetings, Daniel, Sandman, and Liam. I hope that we are doing well this evening. As usual, my tinfoil hat time is spawned forth by ideas that have encumbered my weekend. And so we're going to be talking about this whole concept of addiction-induced consumerism today. So, like, addiction-induced consumerism, what does that mean? Well, what I wanted to convey and come across with this concept, I got my microphone's too far away. Do that. All right. So, in this concept of the addiction-induced consumerism, what I wanted to convey here is that a lot of the consumerism that we have is kind of service model stuff, but there's a fair amount of it that is induced addictions. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what addictions looked like. How does this relate to products and consumerism, and how can addiction possibly be induced? Now, obviously, if you successfully market a concept to somebody enough, then you can change their opinion and their view and their mind. But can that actually induce some degree of addiction is the question. And it kind of a fascinating thing. And there's a clip online here that I forgot to get on earlier and double check that I can actually feed the video over the stream. So we're not going to do that. But what it was, if you have never watched this little clip, then what you should do is check out this individual. Okay, I have no idea what happened there. My OBS just gave me a little pop-up notification that says OBS is disconnected. And then I didn't type the message, and then it just went, hey, popped back on. Anyway, so if you've never seen this little clip here, this is back in 1994. Of course, back in the early 90s, people were starting to question, wow, why are so many people addicted to all of this tobacco and blah, 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 all this other fun stuff. And then people started to question, did tobacco companies know if this stuff was addictive? And so if you watch this clip, and I think this is this clip. I didn't get a chance to preview it real quick, but this is a fairly common clip. A little OCD-iness. There's a hair on top of my camera, and it was driving me crazy. Anyway, if you have a look at this clip and other clips like this, you'll see that this is the CEOs of the tobacco companies are sitting here before Congress. They're being asked, are you aware this is addictive? And all of these guys down the road, it is the most hilarious thing you ever see in 2017, like 20 years back. Like, you have all of these CEOs with straight faces. I believe that tobacco is not addictive. I believe that nicotine is not addictive. I believe it's like, and it's this funniest thing because the same kind of thing happened when when I think it was Chase or was it MBNA wrote the new bankruptcy law that George Bush put into effect. For the hearings before Congress about that stuff, the credit card companies each they didn't have the chance to be questioned. The senators, Republicans, Democrats, or the congressmen and the senators, none of them had the ability to ask any questions. Each person simply had to prepare their one paragraph statement to read. And it sounded just as funny. And we're going to start seeing the same things, down the road in another decade or so with the sugar companies. the food companies. I do not believe that sugar causes any problems. I do not believe that sugar causes any problems. We're going to see the same thing we saw with the tobacco companies and everything else. This is really addiction, okay? Like these guys pushing out their alcohol, their tobacco, and alcohol companies pushing out an addictive substance in alcohol. This stuff is badly addictive. And so you have this kind of concept where companies do sell addictive products. In fact, if you look into the food industry, how the food industry works, they have what is called a bliss point. And the bliss point is the point where the majority of the people, based on extensive market research, cannot stop eating. So I think it's Lay's that has the slogan, "You can't stop after just one." That is correct because they have produced an addictive formula. And so a lot of our consumerism is driven by these addictions that are induced, that we don't even like potato chips. We eat a potato chip and we just gotta keep eating more. And for me, the thing is like, I get this thought, I don't think of potato chips or Doritos or things like that in that concept, but Cheez-Its, man, Cheez-Its. I can't buy Cheez-Its. I stopped buying Cheez-Its because if I buy a box of Cheez-Its and open it, I will eat the whole box. It doesn't matter if I can physically cram anything else in my body. I will keep eating it because they produce this perfect bliss point for me. And I got to avoid them. So I don't do Cheez-Its or much processed food anyway. So that is a brief introduction. Let's see. NI came up. Hey, how's it going there, NI? Robert J, what OS am I running? I am running Linux Mint Cinnamon. There we are. There's actually a view of my my primary desktop display. I have two different desktops over here. But you can see here I'm running Linux Mint with a custom theme. All right, Linux Mint Cinnamon, it's 18.1 is the specific version we have here. All right, so anyway, these are the tobacco industries, the tobacco rep sitting here going, I believe that tobacco is not addictive. I believe it's not addictive because if I said it was addictive, then you would have me shut me down and then I wouldn't be making as much money and my yachts would go sad because I'd have to sell them. All right, so that's kind of the stuff that happens. Now, the thing about addiction itself, and we're not going to, believe it or not, this is not actually going to be about the tobacco or about the food industry or alcohol, whatever else. Although that one's kind of becoming a hot button in my town. Of course, I live in a college town. And, alcohol, I think alcohol drips out of the water pipes here. I'm pretty sure. Just because of how crazy drunken most people walk around town. And if that's true, this might be vodka, but it's not. I just get a bottle of Absolute sometime, fill it with water. That'd be fun, right? Instead of drinking a bottle of... Nah, I won't get to that. But anyway, the entire concept, the entire thing we wanted to look at here is that addiction itself is a dangerous thing. And it's not necessarily just a substance issue. To look at and combat the matter of addiction, and it's also not something that's a stupidity issue. In fact, I decided to pull some quotes from Addictive Thinking, Understanding Self-Deception by Abraham Tversky. So looking at this particular book here, he has some fascinating quotes about this. And one of the things he says is addictive thinking is not affected by intelligence. People functioning at the highest intellectual levels are as vulnerable to these thinking distortions as anyone else. In fact, people of unusually high intellect often have more intense degrees of addictive thinking. Thus, highly intellectual people may be the most difficult patients to treat. And so I say that because we are in a culture that is so driven by not only the addictions that are bound in all of us, but also by the addictions that are driven by a lot of the companies. So what is an addiction? Well, an addiction is a compulsive behavior. When you have an addiction to something, you have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And it gets to the point where if the longer you deny doing it and deny doing it and deny doing it, then what ends up happening is you get to the point where eventually the feelings will overwhelm you. And it kind of reminds me of, there's a little story in this book, and the guy's talking about teaching psychiatry to the medical students. And then, some students, one particular student had an interest in learning more about hypnosis. So I felt that was the most effective method of teaching this was to hypnotize him and allow him to learn firsthand what a hypnotic trance is and what the various phenomena can be produced under hypnosis. So he says the young man happened to be an excellent hypnotic subject, and in several sessions I was able to demonstrate the various applications of hypnosis. Because I also wanted him to understand the phenomenon of post-hypnotic suggestion, I said to him, sometime after you emerge from this trance, I will give you a signal. I will tap my pencil on the desk. At that point, you will get up and put the chair in which you are sitting and place it on my desk. However, you will have no memory I gave you this instruction. Okay, I brought him out of the hypnotic trance, and we continued our discussion about hypnosis. After several moments, I nonchalantly picked up my pencil and tapped it lightly on the desk while continuing the conversation. Within minutes, the student was obviously uncomfortable and began to fidget. I had this crazy urge to pick up my chair and put it on your desk, he said. Why should you want to do that? I asked. I don't know. It's a crazy idea, but I just feel like I have to. He paused. Did you tell me something during the trance? Yes, I did, says the professor. Then why can't I remember it? Because I gave you the suggestion. I told you you wouldn't remember it. Then I don't have to do it, do I? I guess not. So shortly afterwards, the student left. After 20 minutes later, the door flew up and the young man burst in my office, picked up the chair, and angrily placed it on the desk. Darn you, he said, and turned around and left in a fury. I love that story. And I love that story just because of how fascinating it is that the constant barrage of suggestion. Now, of course, he's talking there about a hypnotic suggestion. But the reason I tell that story is talking instead about the compulsion. In this case, in that funny story, this student had this compulsion to pick up his desk and to pick up his chair and put it on the teacher's desk. Okay? But understand that as silly as that is, an addiction itself is a compulsion that we want to do this thing, whatever this thing is, whether this thing is drugs or alcohol or pornography or buying the latest product that these guys are trying to sell. How many people would be buying tobacco if it wasn't as addictive as it was? So all it took then is getting the person to try it once, and then you have a dedicated customer for life. That's the power of an addictive substance. So compulsive behavior is this. You will organize everything like you have to do it, and the longer you withhold it, the greater the urge will be to abandon what you're doing to do it. That is what addictive thinking is. So what we start to do if we accumulate or fall ourselves into an addiction is we will start to rearrange our life around the substance of the addiction. So if the addiction is an addiction to alcohol or whatever, we will rearrange our life to be able to drink, maybe within the certain places, maybe in the certain locations, okay? But if suppose it's something consumerist, in this concept, what I'm going to argue here is that there are businesses that do things in such a way that they compel us to purchase their products. That is the entire purpose behind addiction-induced consumerism. Because consumerism is bad enough when you can control it and you're just ignorant. It's a whole nother thing when you have been made addicted to the object of your consumption. That in and of itself produces a challenge. All right? And then next you will prioritize money on the addiction despite your knowledge that you should do otherwise. right? And so what happens is you become addicted, and this is a lot of times what happens. There's this big debate in our country about food stamps, not food stamps. Should we test people with food stamps for drug abuse? And I believe we should, because the thing is that if you're a person who is so addicted to smoking and drinking, if I, as a taxpayer who's trying to be wise with my money, gives money to the government turns around and gives that to somebody who is utilizing drugs and alcohol and things like that, why should my money go to a tobacco company? There is nothing legitimate about that. Now, of course, you can throw out in the argument, well, you can't use your money, your food stamp money, on buying alcohol. Well, now, A, you can sell it. You sell your food stamp money. That does frequently happen. But B, it doesn't matter, because it all comes out of the same pool. And if you're lowering your pool by some unneeded substance as foolish as drugs and alcohol, you do not need to be given government money to feed your addiction. All we're doing is taking the government money, giving it to a person who turns around and gives it to a corporation that sells an addictive, dangerous product. And that is bad for society. It is bad for the person. It is bad for everybody all around. That's what's got to happen. We got to slow that stuff down. That's why I'm in strong favor. I don't care if you're using food stamp money on alcohol. You shouldn't be buying alcohol if you need the government to pay for your basic food. Okay. Now, some people are probably turned off by that, but understand that we are in a country right now that people cannot pay their bills. Taxes are going up. Believe me, pay close attention to my taxes. They're going up. Also, we can turn around. Ever notice how Social Security is running out of money, and military is running out of money, and all of these other people running out of money? Why is it? Why is it that food stamps and welfare is not running out of money? Funny thing. Where's my fire? I am on fire. I should light myself on fire, man. There will be more times to light myself on fire, I'm pretty sure. I should have lit myself on fire, though. I should have gone on fire. Where's my lighter? I don't know. Anyway, pretty much what we need to do is we need to challenge those measures of addiction, and what we need to do is get to that point where we can make conscious decisions without being induced by things. So the thing that really got me into looking at this this week is I like and occasionally play the game Magic the Gathering. Okay, and when I moved back east a few years back, not too long ago, but I moved back east. I'm like, you know what? New sets are coming out. I said, I think I'm going to buy a box of cards each time one of these new sets comes out. And, that way I can build up a little collection. If I want to build any decks, I'll have the cards on hand. And that was a foolish idea. That was dumb. Because all that ends up happening is I'm throwing hundreds of dollars into buying cards that really aren't worth all that much. I mean, they say they're worth XYZ money, but in reality, they're only worth what somebody's gonna pay you for. So what I'm gonna do is do a little calculation. So there's 15 cards. 15 cards? I think it's 15. It might be 16. Times 36 packs. Okay, so it's 540 cards. I'm going to divide, cost per card. So I need about 110 divided by 540. So, no, that's not right. Yeah, about, I don't know, a couple cents a card, I guess, is what you end up paying. And then, the challenge is that you got to the point where you turn around and you look at it and you have piles and piles of cards. And what I looked at is the brilliance of this company. The company was brilliant because what they did is they developed a routine schedule that very much tracked a lot of what some cults actually do. To hold members in. I'm not saying the game is a cult or that the company is a cult. Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that the the way that they push it and the way that they market it is so fascinating. So here's what ended up happening is as I convert to minimalism, I realize that I have, what's the number? I have 15,075 common cards, 4,285 uncommon cards, 2,100 lands and tokens, 500 and some, let's just say 800 and some rares, foils, etc. if you're familiar with the game. That's a lot of cards laying around for just a game I don't take all that seriously. I mean, anymore, I'll get people, I'll show up at places and people will be telling me about the combinations. They'll be like, I did blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't even know what you're saying. You may as well be talking another language. I may as well just start talking chemistry because we're going to understand each other about the same. Because I just don't care anymore. It's not a high enough priority to me. But what happened is this happened. So a friend of mine wanted to look through the cards and I said, hey, just take anything that you want to take. Of course, he's a very frugal guy and doesn't want to take anything that's not necessary. So he took one or two little cards. But what ended up happening here is this was Organization Day Part 1. The two of us probably spent about 6 hours going through all of these cards, just trying to sort them into the various sets and things so we knew what we had. All right. And then finally, I spent all day yesterday because I found a bulk card buyer. Now, and mind you, Damiano just said, truly a sign of addiction. And it's funny because there was certainly a time in my past I said, yeah, I'm probably addicted. That was like high school. I haven't shown any signs of addiction to this card game. I mean, I had a little extra money back then, but it really still wasn't worth it in retrospect. But, I'm not beating myself up over this. I just have me taking photos because I found a bulk card buyer who's going to buy some cards from me. And so I'm organizing up and everything that's not in the direct decks that I use is going away. So here is half what we got. All sorted. In fact, this is just the common cards. And these guys up here are lands and tokens, but this is just the common cards. And then here's with all of the uncommon cards. And you got to realize each of these packs is about $40. And each of the boxes I bought was about $100. So I bought a box and one of these called a fat pack for each one of these sets that came out for the last few years until I realized that was kind of crazy. Now, of course, I'm not getting rid of everything. And if you happen to be familiar with the game, I'm going to show you one of my gems in here I'm definitely not getting rid of. Right there is an alpha signed Singular Vampire. I like it. Pretty cool. So we're keeping that guy. He stays with me. And there's a few other cards that I kept. Some of them are just, memory seekers, like, ooh, that card was in my first deck, or that's a really cool picture. I'll keep a few of those. But pretty much I'm getting rid of anything that's not in an immediate deck or plans to be in an immediate deck. So I probably kept 200, 300 cards outside of the ones that are in my decks. And so that's kind of what I did there. And that really caused me to start thinking about, are there other areas in our life that are driven by this type of consumerism? And that was kind of the question that we had as I pondered my day, what we would discuss on our tinfoil hat time. Oh boy. Thought I was bad collecting baseball and hockey cards. Yeah, there was a day. I've never been into sports and stuff, but it's a sad reality. Maybe it's a sad reality of consumerism or whatever else. But, I moved around a ton as a kid, and, we moved, it was 5th grade. I think I moved in. I think it was actually 4th grade. We moved into town, the latter end of 4th grade. And we moved into this town that's just like, we moved into I think the sports god town. Like everyone was a sports freak. It was nuts. And I don't like sports. And so it was like sports freaks. Oh Lord, what have I dropped into? And of course, just trying to fit in and trying to make friends of, heartlessly, probably. I mean, heartlessly sounds evil and mean. No, but I tried to grasp onto the things in the world around us that other people my age were doing in the potential hopes of making friends. And it never actually worked. But one of the things, I started collecting baseball cards and football cards to be part of the in crowd, and that never worked. And you know what? I just come to the conclusion, I'm just not into that. JJ Game, I collect Linux ISOs. You know, I did for a little while until I looked back and I said, I got 500 gigabytes of those. Nope, we gotta delete the ones that are not necessary because, you know, best case scenario, they're free open source systems. I'll be able to access them. If the whole internet crashes down, I'm gonna have bigger problems than sifting through Linux distros. Bought them because of the stick gum came with. Absolutely. Yummies. I remember that gum. This is like rock hard, but it has tasted so good. For like 15 seconds, I think. I think that it had was it 2.5 time lifespan faster, or 2.5 time longer than Juicy Fruit, if you remember Juicy Fruit gum. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. So what is it that this particular company does, the Magic Company does, to make sure that people are so constantly induced? Because one of the things that I realize is that, and some people take offense. Some people take offense at this. And my cousin actually runs the division, very successfully runs the division at a store, and he's a judge and all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, he gets mad when people come in and talk about the stereotype, because I understand why. I'm in a store once, and it's one of the weekends. I go up there about once a month or so and play some cards up there, up in his store, and just a good weekend away. And so, what I did, you know, we're sitting there one day, and this guy that just didn't understand the game comes in, and he started making a lot of stereotypical assumptions, like, I think the neighbors, that's not hitting the wall, that's like pounding in a picture, I think. I don't know. Anyway, so the guy basically says, well, how many of these guys that play this card game live in their parents' basement? And that kind of offends my cousin, whose entire career is tied up in this game. But then it was true that he had some bad assumptions. But at the same token, I will tell you, as a person who has played the game for a long time, very familiar with it, attended their regular events, tournaments, etc., that, I will tell you that your average person that plays the game is a blue-collar worker working very low-wage jobs, can barely afford to pay anything, buys more alcohol or tobacco or vaping materials than they can probably spend the money on, puts a lot of money into here, and then wonders why they can't do anything. Because to play this game, and the reason I stopped playing this game more frequently than I used to, is the only way to do good in the game is to just spend a ton of money putting cards into it. And that's just not something I was willing to do. I was not willing to spend a boatload of extra money to dump into the game here. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm keeping the one format I still like to play casually here and there, and everything else is going away. But what they did is, there was a period of time about, I want to say it was about 10 years ago. I forget the exact history, but about 10 years ago, what had happened is they were floundering a little bit. You know, people were growing up, new people weren't coming into it. They had to figure out, what is it that we can do? So Hasbro buys the company. Wizards of the Coast runs these guys. Hasbro buys the company, and Hasbro is marketing machines, you know. They're like, well, they know what they're doing. And so they instituted, every Friday night there's a tournament. Once a month there is a game day. There are invite tournaments based upon your status ranking, but they do new releases now on a solid, rigid schedule. And it just keeps people coming back, because you get this the buzz about the new thing coming in about a month or so before the new set's released. One or two little cards will leak, and so you get all this traffic onto these leaking websites. All the people are anticipating it, building the decks in their mind, thinking about the cards they want to get. They go to the pre-release, because it's the only place you can get the cards a week before they're released, before anybody else. You can go to the pre-release, get your cards, get your pack there, win some packs. And then the next week, you can buy the cards finally on the release. You're all excited. You have one game day. You work on these decks. You streamline them down. And right about the time you get them streamlined down, another release, and the whole cycle happens again. And it keeps people fed into this constant loop cycle of doing the same thing. The anticipation, the looking into, the special pre-release event, then the release day, then the game day, the regular tournaments, and then cycle resets itself. And it's this non-terminating loop that just keeps going back and back and back. And that is what they've done. That is great for business. Okay, and for the person that loves the game and wants to do the game and participate in it and has the money to do it, that's awesome. But that is also an induced addiction. They're inducing an addiction that leads to more consumerism, where people that can barely afford to eat will dump $100. And the point where this really solidified in my mind was about a year ago. And I forget exactly which set this was. But about a year ago, they released these lands called expedition lands. And your expedition lands, when they were first released, were they were Willy Wonka's golden ticket, okay? And one of the things I actually watched, I'm going through a lot of old movies, and I actually just kind of randomly, and I hit Willy Wonka last night. So I'm like watching, I think it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, actually. What ended up happening is, you could get these lands, and there was like one per, I don't know how many different boxes. I'm trying to look up these lands here. I'm going to spell that totally wrong on the search engine, but... Okay, it was Zendikar. It was the Zendikar ones. Let's see. And what I want to do here is I want to look for... There was a really good place to price cards that showed you the history of the valuation of cards. And unfortunately, they just changed their website and nothing works. They made it all fancy-dancy looking, and the entire thing is broken now. Yeah. Way to go, web designers. Okay. I'm just going to try and see if I can find these lands here. I really want to show you what it is. I'll have to tell you if I can't find it, but... Is this it? This might be it. I think I found them. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. That'll work. That'll work. That'll work. All right. No, not that one. There we go. All right. So here is one of these lands. So probably, I don't know what this percentage is, but a small percentage of the boxes would have one pack with one of these lands. Okay. And these lands here, now $400 for this little piece of cardboard. Yeah. And that's actually, I mean, the most expensive card in the game can average around $10,000 if you had a good condition one, particularly ones that are signed. And what could happen here, you can see here that it peaked out at like $450, and you'll see they'll go up and down. So over here, it fell down as low as $200 for basic prices and stuff. Of course, this is what you can buy it for online. Of course, something is only worth what somebody's going to pay you for it. And so what I saw, though, is when this release came out, I watched a guy dump $600, actually $650, to buy 6 boxes. He bought a box of cards, opened them all up, looking for one of these lands. $600. Didn't get it in the first one. Bought another one. Bought another one. Bought another one. Bought another. 6 boxes. He finally gets a land. The golden alarm! Got the land! By the end of the night, he traded it for some cards that were in the case. These people did a good job at inducing addiction, didn't they? The scarcity, the rarity. That was golden ticket. Willy Wonka's golden ticket. The craze. This was the most genius thing ever. We'll take a land, make it extremely rare, put one in every 30 boxes, whatever. Augustus Gump got his land. He bought and bought and bought and bought and bought until he got it. That's what happened. Now, again, I'm not saying it's bad to buy a box of these cards if you play the game, you collect them, whatever else. But to buy six boxes because you're looking for one land and he didn't even leave the store with it. That was the danger. That is what I'm talking about with addiction-induced consumerism. All right. So what do you do if you are a company and you want to have this type of thing? Well, you need to have scheduled releases for your product releases. And they've got to be on a regular cycle so that people will know to go over there and to have a look at the specific time. You want people coming back to you on a regular interval. These people do it great by having the Friday night. They do the once a month. And those are just the official ones. There's unofficial ones all the time. And then you have these solid release schedules. And then you have, I didn't even mention all of the little things they do in between the release schedules. All this does is just keeps your customers coming back. Now, what do other things do? Food companies, of course, is easy. You just got to produce the product with the bliss point and sell it. And do whatever it takes to get somebody to try that food once, and then you got them. Same thing with your addictive drug companies, tobacco, alcohol, vaping supplies. Get them trying it. Boom, they keep coming back. Customers for life. As far as television studios and things, bands, regular release schedules to keep people coming back at the specific time, at the specific place. And then what ends up happening is you can look at what they're doing and it becomes difficult to get out of the cycle. Now, Apple doesn't need to have these planned obsolescence. Their entire culture drives people to go out like, I have a perfectly fine iPhone 6. I'm going to get rid of it because the iPhone 6s came out. Huh? I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. But anyway, that's kind of that. Let's have a quick look at comments here because we got some comments coming back and forth. Oh, boy. Tasted similar juice for gum memory. Actually, here's a fun trivia question. Anybody know what flavors combine to give you bubble gum? I was totally shocked when I accidentally found this out. Anybody know that? I'll tell you when I get to the end of these comments. What flavors go together to make bubble gum flavoring? I collect ISOs too, but I had put them on DVD. Need another terabyte drive. 206 gigabytes of Linux distros. Sweet. So the reason I stopped collecting them is because there's always new releases coming out, and by the time I'd want to look at that distro again, there's probably a new one, and it's not a bad deal. Of course, if you don't have good internet where you're at, or you have very limited internet, and you're downloading them, at a library or something, that's a little different case. But my drive is fat, so I can use it on any OS. Yep, that's what I usually do. I have a distro for legacy hardware and new hardware. That's why I need another drive. Nice. Over 1 gigabyte. I hope you mean 1 terabyte, because almost every distro is over 1 gigabyte. I'm addicted to Linux. Gotta have my Linux. Getting there too. In Ubuntu 14.04 days, I had a CD case full of unneeded CDs, DVDs of Linux OS's live disks never used. I think I just threw away my Ubuntu 14.04. No, was it 14 or no 13? I had an Ubuntu 13, I think. No, it was 11. Ubuntu 11. Ubuntu 11.04. I think I had one I think I just threw it away. Found that last one. Hunt and destroy. I might still have a Tails 2.5 around somewhere. Let's see. Actually install OpenSUSE 43.2 right now. Version isn't even out yet. Nice. Just hit the package freeze today and still had a month of bug fixing to go. Why do I do this to myself? Because you're a Linux-loving sadomasochist. Come on, why not? Interesting game. Installing. Anyone here using OS X? I have an OS X computer. I hate it. I don't have to watch this on Windows RM because of said OpenSUSE install. Is that alpha or something? Good evening, Lance. How are you? JJ Game entered beta today, I believe. All right. They should make a Pi phone or a Linux phone. Typo. I can run Linux on my iPhone. I'm using VM. Thirsty Fox, you are 42 minutes late to the stream. I'm on my business concepts. You'll have to watch about the addiction stuff later, and I should have lit myself on fire earlier, but oh well. Stylably late. All right. Well, got to the bottom of the comments. So, in case you were guessing, if you mix, believe it or not, spearmint, peppermint, and wintergreen, you get bubblegum. I thought it was going to be cute one day. I studied herbology years ago, and I'm like, I like wintergreen tea. I like pure spearmint tea. I like peppermint tea. I bet I'm going to like them all together. Mix it together. Didn't even try it. I was still in high school at the time. Take my tea to school to me. Open up, drink it. Bubblegum tea, huh? It's interesting to drink. But yeah, if you mix those three flavors together, you end up getting bubblegum flavor. It's kind of funny. Anyway, all right. So what else do businesses do? Well, of course, studios. These guys are getting game studios, movie studios, whatever. They're getting to the point where their franchise expansions can set the stage of the moon. Okay, I mean they're getting so good with like, hey, and a lot of them, if you notice, it's December. So they gotta have the movie out by around like mid-November, so it's ready to push out on DVD by Christmas shopping. Way to sell 1 million movies. Let's see. Musicians really haven't caught on that with the music yet. But of course, video game franchises as well. They're just constantly out. Of course, those Kingdom Hearts people, it's like 3 or 4 years in between. They don't care because they're Disney. They're going to sell no matter what their schedule is. So anyway, let's see. This was an interesting one as far as software is concerned, is removing the sales of products. So in other words, you're not able to really buy products anymore. You buy license to view something or license to use something. Even my I'm so sad, like the Warcraft 3. I still like Warcraft 3. Well, I don't know what in the world's been going through Blizzard's mind, but they've been updating and updating and updating and updating. It's like the game's been fine for a long time, so they decided to break it a few times with some new updates. But now you have to bind yourself to the EULA to play it. Huh? It's like, I bought the thing like 25 years ago. It's about time you stop messing with the EULA on the thing, all right? It's old. It's old. And so a lot of these companies are now removing, of course, this is what Microsoft did. You don't buy Windows anymore, you license it. And that's a good thing about Linux, is that you're not licensing Linux, you're using it. You know, it does have the GPL license, but it's not like this crazy binding license like the Windows license is becoming. And then of course, the software, even the hardware in many cases is licensing. So it's like, okay, I've bought my phone, but I can't actually do anything with my phone. Can somebody please explain it to me like I'm 5? And so you get that kind of stuff going. And then, of course, games, movies, books, music, all this. Like, this is the sad reality that I hear people like, I'm going to get rid of the book collection, just get them on Kindle. No, you are not buying your books if you're getting them on a Kindle. You are licensing your books. And Amazon may pull that book away from you one day. You want to get into digital books, you need DRM-free books and avoid the Kindle. Use FB Reader on an Android device or iBooks on a Apple device. I think let's check on the status of FB Reader for Android real quick, or for iOS real quick. FB Reader is a great open source free reader. And they are, I think they're still beta testing it. Let's see, Android. Well, bummer. They were supposed to have, they wanted to release their iPhone, iPad version in autumn of 2006. We've passed that. But I did read not too long ago, they did release, I think it's an alpha, or is it a beta? I forget if it's an alpha or if it's a beta. Just trying to look it up here real quick. Let me go ahead and show you my screen so you can actually see what I'm looking at. There you go. These are the various versions you have. There you go. Okay, so in April, they released the beta for FB Reader. So you could join the testing program, which I didn't want to do because, it requires something I didn't want to do. But regardless, they do have the FB Reader in beta now, so hopefully that will be out very soon. I am very much anticipating that arrival. So check out FB Reader if you are a book reader. And of course, Calibri to manage your books. And I actually have videos on that. Check my video library. All right. Had any serious... have you guys heard of any serious Linux on mobile products? Now, the Ubuntu phone has failed miserably. Well, unless somebody else has commented below, I haven't read yet, but Sandman, a group of independent developers have taken over the Ubuntu Touch project, so it does still exist, and you can now even get some updates for it. So it is continuing slowly, just not necessarily with the financial support of Canonical. But a bunch of people have taken that project and ran with it. So it will apparently keep going. And I don't know. I think under the independent developers, they might move it faster than Canonical did. I don't know. Not sure. Yeah, I mean, people say that yeah, Android, Linux. No, Android is based on Linux, okay? Much the same like Mac OS is based on Unix. It really doesn't have any real semblance. It's still closed source software by Google. So this is why I use an iPhone, because it's easier to lock down an iPhone than it is that. I have three worlds to choose from: Microsoft, iPhone, Android, Google. Yeah, iPhone. Going with that. Let's see. APA, I run Linux on iPhone. Can I post a link? Yeah, do the best you can, just with spaces or remove dots with parenthesis, dot, parenthesis. That's fine. Most of my school textbooks are available online, but they're all through some kind of online reader. So I end up buying it and then trying to find PDFs so I can have a copy of it. No, you can't do that, actually. I actually worked in the digital division of a college textbook company. No, it's not possible, actually, under almost every instance of your textbooks, because if you download it as a PDF, it means that you can, DRM free it, blah, blah, blah. So all of it utilizes their own things. Now, if you're just a curious geek looking for a good textbook, OpenStax. Go to OpenStax. And OpenStax, you can get some excellent. It's not OpenStax.com. I think it's OpenStax.org. All right, so here you can come down and find all sorts of textbooks. Then these textbooks are great. These are every bit as good as any other textbook you will ever find. Adams First. They released another chemistry book since I'm here. There's an Adams First approach. I'm guessing this is a molecular approach. So here you can just simply download it as a PDF. You can get the high or the low resolution. And this is a DRM-free copy of a full textbook. This is as good as any other textbook you will get as a college. Completely free open source project. If you do happen to want a book, you can donate, of course. If you do actually want a physical hard copy, you can pay them for a physical hard copy. I said download, not open in browser, but oh well. Bummer. Let me go back to here. Okay, so if you want to order a print copy, you can buy them for $55. I mean, and that's how much textbooks are, because they're the cost to print plus a few extra bucks to to keep their thing going. That is how much a college textbook should cost you. I done and gun it. I went on fire. Okay, college textbook companies in this country need to be shut down. They are absolutely whole-scale ripping off every student in this country. And they know they can, because the students got to go to school. Everyone's got to go to school. You got to get a student loan. Got to get a student loan. Get your student loan. Get your books. Get your books. Get your books, to the point where right now a comparable textbook, the comparable textbook for that happens to be somewhere to the effect of like $400. I'm going to look it up. The comparable textbook, I'm going to tell you the retail price as soon as I find it. And it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy. I can just sit here on burning on fire for these guys, because what's going on here is the textbook companies are changing things one or more little bit at a time. And right now, the retail price of the comparable textbook company by the Big Chalk Company is $301. Now, you can buy it new online for like $150 from Amazon or something. But if you go to the bookstore to buy this thing, you will be paying $301 for this textbook. Actually, you might be paying more, because usually your textbook companies tack on an extra 10-20% to make the bookstores at the colleges tack on the extra little bit. And by the way, you can't use your financial aid at Amazon. You can't use your financial aid at your bookstore. Go figure. So what ends up happening is these guys, every 2 years, actually it's 3 years, about every 3 years, you change the edition. All they do in the change the edition, they rearrange a few things in the structure. They alter some questions in the back of the book so that the professor is sending the homework out of the back of the book. It will no longer align. You can't get the older version, the older edition, and then you end up paying, 6 times more what the book is worth. All because these textbook companies want to sell a profit, pushing a product. And here's the real kicker. They don't have to sell you as a student. They just have to sell your professor. And they do that by buying them coffee, donuts, lunches, and dinners. That's what's going on in this world of textbook companies. And I got news for you. The more we do this kind of stuff, the more we drive it, the more we're raping the students in that manner by charging them 6 times more the print copy of a textbook is. That is a problematic thing. Four gigabytes RAM on my phone, and almost half of it is occupied on idle. Yep. All right, there's a link there for an emulator. All right. The box doesn't just run XP. Ignore the website. I'm guessing you can figure it out how to load it. Okay. Sure to check out OpenStax. My courses often require a very specific book and even an addition for assigning problems. Yeah. Okay, let me give you a few fun tips that your professor might I don't know, hate. Question this. I mean, me as a professor a decade ago, I would be like, whatever. Actually, a decade ago, no, I'd kind of calm down a little bit. I said, I'm assigning the problems out of the back of this book. If you happen to have a friend who has a copy of that book and you can make sure your problems are aligned, go for it. I don't care, because by that point in time, I was realizing it was costing the students too much. But what's happening more often now is almost every course is now assigning online homework. So what do you need the book for anyway? Really, though, you get the book so you can read it and understand the subject. That's the purpose. If the purpose of your book is to do homework and problems in the back, man, that is like less than 5% of any textbook. In fact, that's probably less than 2% of any textbook. Any reasonable human being could make a copy of that and post it. Of course, that violates copyright, so don't do that. But that's the reality of how much we're screwing students over with this whole textbook industry. It's to the point where most professors hate them as well. But with all that being said, some of the other fun things that you can do, just borrow your roommate's book or a friend's book. Just go and copy the problems out of the back of the book. Because, I have, what was that, 13th? I have the 7th edition of this textbook that I'm looking at for the price comparison here. Now, that's 20 years difference. It has changed enough there that I'd say, yeah, don't get the 7th edition. But, this is the 13th edition. I used the 7th edition. I taught out of the 9th edition. I taught out of the 11th edition. Between the 7th and the 11th, there wasn't a significant amount that it hindered your ability to do the class. Okay? And that's kind of that. So yeah, if they require the very specific book, mostly it's just for the assignment of problems. Just get an older copy of the book and just photocopy. Just because you can, for probably $5, I think you could photocopy the assignment problems, especially since very few professors will assign any problem number after 100. And so you're pretty much only copying 1 or 2 pages. 10 cents a copy. Times you only cover maybe 10 chapters in a book. 10 times 2, that's 20 maybe 30 copies. That's worth paying 10 cents a copy for, to not have to pay the exorbitant fee for the higher edition. Because here's what's going on here. And yeah, I'm going to pull this right up on the corporatocracy page. Yep, absolutely. That's what we're going to do. And so here is this. Now, of course, on Amazon, you can buy books really cheap. But looking at your list price here, the price you buy it for at the bookstore is usually this price plus an extra 10 or 20%, so the bookstore can take their cut as well. Now, of course, getting it on Amazon, you can buy this for $142. This is the 13th edition. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to have a look at the 12th edition. Now, one of the fun tactics that textbook companies are doing is they have started themselves buying up the older editions to get the newer edition to basically remove them off. Okay, so here is the last year's edition. 18 buckaroos. 300 versus 18. I'm just going to let that sink in for a minute. This one down here, for those curious, by you, that usually means it's a custom edition. Oh, of course, it's a great deal, though. If you want this digitally on your Kindle, $180. Of course, they'll probably remove the 12th edition from you before too long. There we go. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. Okay, so the 13th edition on your Kindle is $180, and the 12th edition on your Kindle, $200. Oh, $60 to rent it. Yeah, folks. Oh, boy. We don't own anything anymore. At least when I was done with college, I had a geeky supply of textbooks that includes things like, calculus and chemistry. And bummer, I had to get rid of about half my textbooks, though. Yeah, I did get rid of half my textbooks when I moved back out here. And this is a pain moving ocean to ocean and with piles and piles of textbooks. So minimalist life is a little bit better. All right, folks. That's what we got. Be careful of of addiction-induced consumerism. I guess the final take-home message here is be wise about what you're buying and how you're buying it. Watch out for subscription services that you don't really need, and make sure you're not part of some cog in a wheel, some unit of valuation for a company. Live your life by your terms, and that very well may mean, buying more Magic cards or buying Kindle books. But just make sure you're aware of what you're buying when you're buying it, and how a lot of times the company is far more interested in helping you to part with your money than they are interested in you as a you. And you need to focus on you as a you, not your company as their profit. So with that, I think I will actually wrap up the comments, and then I'm going to go because I see some comments coming on the line here. All right, go Tom. Woo! All right, I'm going to get some banners made up. Go Tom. Flare it up. Fire it up. Do you guys buy fired up switch to Linux banners again? The bottom line, they make from 400% plus markup. Yeah. Off topic. Got my first Raspberry Pi. Sweet! What you gonna do with yours? I gotta buy another one. One of my Raspberry Pis was completely co-opted by my media center, so I'm gonna need to buy another one. Are you not a professor anymore because you're not a liberal and you're not welcome to teach conservative values? Well, let's see. Are you not a professor anymore because you're not liberal? It is a misnomer that all professors are crazy liberals. There's actually a fair amount of conservative ones. Like if you've ever watched the movie Expelled, I think it's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen on a movie. I mean, yeah, in fact, I think I watched a documentary on cows, and there was lots of manure, and there was less crap in that than there was on Expelled. Because they're like painting this picture that all of these people in universities, every one of them is this evolution, faith is exiled, you're expelled, you have faith in God. And that's just not the reality. In fact, I remember one very funny time I'm in lab in grad school, and this guy keeps calling me. I'll have to call him back soon. So this guy in grad school, we're having this conversation, and I'm not an evolutionist, and I have weighed it, and I was an evolutionist at one point in time, and I'm not anymore. I have read Origin of Species. Darwin says, if this happened, 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 this whole theory falls apart, and the entire theory would have fallen apart, because every complexity he had a problem with in that book. If you think that all this stuff is it, go read Origin of Species. Okay, of course, there's more about evolution than that, but we're there talking about evolution one point in time, and I had a few of these more intellectual atheist guys in there, and they're like, yes, evolution is king, creationists are stupid. I said, no, there's you can't make that argument one or the other. It's not a scientific question. It's a question of origins, and that's not a scientific question. Okay, so then what happens then is that as the question and comes into play, we're all having this discussion, and our boss comes in, our PI, principal investigator, comes in the lab, and of course, and he's not like some little low new guy. Okay, he is like an extremely distinguished professor, in the field. And he looks out, he walks in, we're talking about this, he goes, oh, what you guys talking about? Evolution. He goes, yeah, there's no evidence for that, and he walks off. And that's just kind of the way a lot of it is. There are enough people, and it's loud. It's like the homosexual movement. There's not a lot of them. They're just very loud. And that's just kind of the thing, So let's see. And you're not welcome to teach conservative values. Well, I was in the hard sciences, so I wasn't really teaching values either way. I was just solid chemistry, baby. Okay, why isn't anyone charge these companies for collusion like they did with TV screens a few years ago? Because they own the politicians. Running Ubuntu on an old MacBook as of now. Sweet. Kernel do I use? Fix up the Rubik's Cube behind me. They are perfectly fine, actually. They are as mirror opposites of one another. There, fixed. You ready? Happy? I put them out, actually, if you don't notice, they are checkerboards. I put the back up wrong. I'll fix them after the show. Let's see. All right, well, I think I reached the bottom of the comments. I'm going to call this guy back before it gets too late. But regardless, hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I think I'm going to feed the kitty, and then we'll end the camera. So thanks for watching, everybody. And we are going to feed the kitty. After I got, we'll just do it there.